All right, next up we have Lisa Maier, who is CEO of digital marketing agency DirectiveGroup, and she's going to be talking about re-engaging customers when the economy reopens. And
Hello
Lisa,
there. Good morning.
good morning.
I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, make sure that that works properly.
Yeah, that's great. And while you're doing that, just a reminder for everyone, you can use the Q&A module at the bottom of your screen to enter in questions during our presentations. All right, great. Go ahead, Lisa.
Excellent. Can you see my screen okay? Does everything look good there?
Yep, you're all set.
Very awesome. Again, my name is Lisa Maier. I'm with a company by the name of DirectiveGroup, and today we'll be talking about re-engaging when the economy reopens. Oops, trigger happy. Wanted to take a second to thank you for this first virtual conference by the PSA, Paid Search Association. It's good to be here, and thank you for allowing me to speak. The topics I wanted to cover today, a little bit about DirectiveGroup. I realize I don't have a photo anywhere. I won't do that mistake again. And so I have a picture of our elephant, though. So I want to talk a little bit about DirectiveGroup. I want to talk about you, the people that we're speaking to here today, talk about learning from history with recessions, and then talking about the best action in this particular recession that has 3 stages: crisis, pivot and adapt, and market return. My goal really is, when I was working on this, I was thinking about US-based clients and how to help them perform best in this current environment that is both recessionary and has this pandemic overlay. So it's a really troubled and economic environment. Obviously, there are bright spots. We've been hearing about them today and yesterday as well, so that's excellent. A lot of people, however, aren't in the bright spot, and they're trying to figure out how to manage their business environment, how to manage their marketing effort. And so my goal is really to talk about that large group of us that are seeing a downturn in our business, don't know what the future is going to hold, and we want to continue marketing in that environment. So that's what I'll be talking about today. A little bit about DirectiveGroup. We're a full-service digital agency. We do position ourselves as a business growth strategy consulting firm. And then we apply integrated digital marketing tactics to programs designed to achieve our clients' growth goals. So we're a performance-based agency, big focus on ROI. We do work with B2B and considered B2C. Some examples of the clients that we work with are below. So now to the fun part. I want to talk about you. I think a great way to start this conversation is to talk about your role as a marketer working with companies that are facing this economic crisis and this pandemic at the same time. Interestingly enough, this is the 3rd recession that we've been in the digital era in the last 20 years, so it's not the first time that we're going through this. We have a little bit of a different circumstance, but one of the really important things that I like to remember during this time is that our clients right now are looking to us, they're looking to you to figure out what works in marketing right now. And this is a really important time for you to claim a different authority position to help coach them through an enormously chaotic situation. So I think a great starting place is to realize that you've become mission critical to their survival in some cases, and certainly to their success. So some thoughts about that would include making sure that you lead with facts and data. I'm going to be giving you some facts and data today, so some examples of that, and I've been seeing some all morning, so some great information to share with folks. Helping them focus on essential audiences. Melissa was just talking about that a few moments ago. Sometimes you're not talking to the customers that you normally talk to, selling the things that you normally sell. Maybe you're helping your clients focus on their employees or some other stakeholders in the community. You're an important person to help them figure out who they need to talk to in what order and what the message might be. Really important right now is to show others how others have done it or are doing it now. Like I said, this is our 3rd recession in the last 20 years, so you have some case studies that are available, how other Other folks have come through these just fine and maybe even flourished, so make sure you make use of those case studies. Showing them other competitor behavior is also very helpful. Some of the stats and numbers we've been seeing today are really good to help people benchmark against. It's really important to make bulletproof recommendations. Anything that we recommend as marketers, they're going to be undergoing a great deal of scrutiny right now. So you want to make sure that what you're proposing can be fully vetted and makes really sound sense. The final comment that I wanted to make is it's really important now that you're invited to the executive table to help them make some business driving decisions. Bring strategies to your clients before you bring them tactics. So thinking about the big picture and bringing that view to them is really important. From a historical perspective, this being our third recession since 2000, really interesting studies out there from some really big names. For instance, McKinsey and Bain both have done extensive research on what happens during recessions and what happens after recessions. And there's definitely a ton of evidence out there showing that what happens now, the actions your companies take, will impact them when we come out of this. So helping them get it right now can really increase their performance as right now and coming out of this recession. A Harvard business study that it was for 4,700 publicly traded companies found that it's roughly 2 times performance for people that get it right now as opposed to people that don't get it right. And they were comparing things like who was very timid versus who was wildly optimistic, and then who was appropriately progressive. A really nice analogy that I read once, I think helps us to get this right now. Think of a recession as a sharp curve on an auto racetrack. The best place to pass competitors is right now, but it requires more skill than straightaways. The best drivers apply the brakes just ahead of the curve, so as we're coming into this crisis, taking out excess costs, turning hard toward the apex of the curve, identifying a very solid, tight list of what you want to focus on from an advertising perspective, and then really importantly, to accelerate hard coming out of the curve. So the companies that succeeded really well in the previous 2 recessions started spending and hiring just before the markets rebounded. And that's where it takes courage and boldness to really make decisions and act appropriately. But for those companies that are able to do that, they, like I said, had double the performance of the companies that were not able to do that successfully. So what I want to talk about is what does it take to do that successfully? Some of the information coming out of previous recessions, there are demand shocks and then there are supply shocks. We're in a demand shock right now. There are 8 different elements that are decisive in helping companies outperform their average when they come out of this. One is focusing on the core, and that means eliminating anything that's fluff. All the pet projects go away. Sharpening brand positioning. The steak always did matter. The sizzle always did matter. Both still matter. Cutting costs and not corners, really important because people have a tendency to want to start charging less, and sometimes that's not the right thing to do. Another really important thing is how to deliver meaningful value. There are some excellent examples out there right now. For instance, Amazon's Audible is offering a free collection of children's audiobooks for as long as schools are closed. So they haven't lowered the price of Audible, but what they did is they started taking what they had and delivering some meaningful value out to the market. Boost physical availability. So we're seeing some different channels, some different platforms that people are buying from. Making sure that you're available broadly across where people are looking is very important. Every bit of the brand must sell. So, if you're selling a service, every interaction is part of the selling process. If you're selling products, even the packaging must sell. having the courage to cut through. This is the boldness and decisiveness that I was talking about a little bit. Part of it is right now. So you hear about manufacturing companies, for instance, that are kind of dead in the water, but they've turned their attention to manufacturing masks or hand sanitizer and things like that. Those are really courageous acts that will pay off. Lots of loyalty shifting is happening right now, and things will be different coming out of this based on how people act in this. And then finally, I heard Melissa saying this as well, share the pain. Like really nothing we do as a marketer should be without an awareness and compassion for the fact that not only is this an economic shock to all of us, but it's also scary because death is involved or potentially involved. So really, really important time to be compassionate and aware. The final thing I wanted to say here is that in this kind of situation, for the companies you serve, this may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them to gain market share that may never otherwise be available to them. So this is not a trivial situation from a marketing perspective, and so it's really important for us to help walk them through these choices. I'm going to kind of categorize this economic situation in 3 stages. Stage 1 is the outbreak, which ostensibly we've already gone through, but we may return back to, so I'm going to speak about it a little bit. Stage 2 is containment. Stage 3 is recovery. Stage 1, the crisis. Most important, and I think all of us have seen this by now, is it's critical to be very visible, to be very rapid in your decision making, to be decisive and compassionate. So being visible toward customers, employees, industry, and community, there's a lot of people that you have to be visible in front of. Future loyalty decisions are being made right now, so this is really important from that perspective as well. Handling all communications, all actions with speed, transparency, and authenticity, rapid flow of information, and looking for ways to help and contribute to solutions is really essential right now. I'm going to talk about resegmenting in just a second because this is one of the 2 key things I'm going to be suggesting that you do. But it's definitely true that during a recession, you may need to segment your audiences in different ways than you have in non-recessionary times. I'm going to walk through that in a second. And then finally, this is not a time to be silent. You know, if you're going to do something, communicate it appropriately. If there is something that you have that's valuable in the market, sell it, but sell it appropriately. So it's really a time that we have to be very careful with how we handle almost everything that we're doing. Looking to the segmentation, and I apologize that this is a little bit tiny, but I did want to try to fit it on one slide. I have the source link at the very back of this presentation, so it's available to you. This came from a Harvard Business Review study, and basically what this is trying to show on the left-hand matrix is how you might think about segmenting your customers, and then how your products or services fit in terms of how they see what's important and what's not important to them right now. So just walking through it really quickly, there are people that have a slam on the brakes mentality. The pain but patient is the huge majority in the middle. Comfortably well off, the top 5% probably, and live for today. Mostly young people don't have much to lose. So talking about the slam on the brakes, these are people that have been impacted the worst. They've lost a job, they've lost someone in their family to the COVID-19. There are some serious problems going on in their personal situations. The pain but patient are just about everyone else. It's kind of a scary time. That decisions are made cautiously, but basically things are okay, but it could change. They could go into a slam on the brakes. The comfortably well off, if they're the top 5%, probably nothing has changed for them, except that they don't want to consume so conspicuously as they have in the past. And so over here along the horizontal axis is the types of products that you might be selling. So you have essentials, treats. Treats came up a lot in the last recession. People want to have small rewards postponables, and then expendables. So you need to categorize your products and services along this axis and kind of figure out, once you understand the groupings of the people you're targeting, whether they're existing clients or potential new clients that you see an opportunity with. And then you can figure out from here how you want to start working with them. What are the things that they need with regard to your products and services? And then this chart over here is basically thoughts on what kind of platforms you might use, what kind of tactics you might use, and then what kind of messaging. So like I said, it's pretty tiny, but I just wanted to walk through the concept, and then the link is at the end of this that walks through it. But this is a really important time, I think, to reconsider your segmentation and start segmenting to either find new opportunities, new people to work with, or changes in your existing client base. Stage 2, I think we're kind of sort of in stage 2 where there's an assessment, pivoting, and adapting going on. I think a lot of people have already said we're not on a linear path. We're going to go one step forward, two steps back, et cetera, and there's going to be a lot of movement. In fact, my next chart is going to show some economic recovery scenarios. I'm going to talk about scenario planning for just a moment then. But basically in stage 2, there's a couple of things that are going on. Number one, you're doing the adaptation of your products or services, either for existing clients, customers, or you're looking for new segments that you can target based on what you have to offer. You want to keep an eye on the key variables on the virus, public health response, public policy, customer and prospect behavior, which I was just talking about with regard to segmentation. You want to watch unfolding trends. There are a lot of changes happening right now. For instance, in retail, consumers are definitely looking to retailers to have some help in how to figure all of this out, and they're making buying decisions on that. Local services, people are trying to buy contactless, have things delivered to them. Changes going on across healthcare, finance, technology, media and entertainment. We were just looking at some of the numbers in the last presentation. Interestingly enough, in the last recession, the CPG group of companies had a major shift in market share based on actions during the recession. So looking at some of those changes and opportunities is really important. The final thing that I want to mention is that in messaging how you're helping and how you're adapting what you offer to help them cope with this with awareness and compassion. Interesting examples coming out of China that I think that we're starting to see modeled here in the U.S. For instance, clothing manufacturers, yoga and active wear brands started live streaming classes so people could exercise at home. Things like that are opportunities for businesses to become very creative in helping support their communities and the people that they serve, and then helping these loyalty decision changes at the same time. So it's a really interesting time to be creative about how you can help. I want to talk for 1 second about scenario planning. And again, I know this is a pretty intense chart to look at. This has 9 different cells in it, and there are 4 of them are highlighted. The top right one is the perfect scenario for a recession recovery, which is a V-shaped where we go into it and we go out of it really fast. And then there are a lot of other scenarios that aren't as beautiful as that one. It's expected that our recovery isn't going to be as beautiful as that one, even though all of us hope that it could be. And so thinking about scenario planning, what that really amounts to is just determining a few things, determining what are the key variables that could change the way you want to come out of this, the way that you want the companies you serve to come out of this. Key variables here are the virus, how contained is it, have there been outbreaks somewhere else, and the public health response. So keeping an eye on that will affect how we come out of that. There are these knock-on effects that that come from the responses to the virus outbreak, for instance, and then the public policy response. So keeping an eye on those and deciding how, if those change, your products and service offerings will change will be very helpful for you in determining how you might want to respond. So basically, during this adapt phase is the time to work on your scenario planning. Once you have your scenarios planned, all the ways we could come out of it, all the ways you want to respond, then you use your segmentation and you figure out who you're going to target with what message on what platform. And that way, you're 100% ready as we do come out of this. And that's probably key, is that when we come out of this, the folks that, I don't know if you remember with the auto racing analogy that I gave you, that just ahead of the rebound, the companies that responded in a way that was appropriate for their audiences, that was decisive in how they grew after the recession was over. So looking at market return scenarios, the market return will be by geography, country, industry, behavioral segments. So it's going to be different. There are going to be these long-term trends that have developed that you're going to be dealing with when we come out of this. So kind of thinking through the impacts of those. You have your scenario planning, and so you know how you're going to activate your marketing based on the scenarios that show up, remembering that this one has significant emotional recovery needs that are going to be part of our market recovery. So basically what you want to do is you want to be prepared for, as we come into the market return, however we're coming in. If we have a little bit of gain and then a little back, how are you going to handle that? This is the time to have all of that prepared for your really strong market return. I just wanted to mention, in wrapping up, there are a couple of things that are definitely trends that were noticed in China and some of the other countries that went through this first that will impact us probably as we come out of it. Healthy living is a trend, unmanned retail, remote working tools and technologies, e-learning education technologies, healthcare, supply chain changes, definitely some changes that are going to happen there. And then a higher adoption by what's called the silver segment of online consumption, because they've been forced to. So there's a lot of opportunity for you with these changes coming out of it. Now's your time to plan for that. The final slide here is just the sources, so this will be available to you. I mentioned some HBR studies, some McKinsey and Bain studies, so those are all listed here. And that is it for me. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your attention.
Fantastic, Lisa. Thank you so much. And I know people are going to be looking forward to diving into those slides in greater detail. That was a terrific overview of how to be thinking about the near future and longer term future. Thank you so much.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, and that actually, quick reminder that we do have a roundtable. That will kick off around 12:30 with the speakers of today, and we'll also be joined by Andrew Gooden and Amy Bishop as well. So stay tuned for that.